yourself?
Busy, busy, busy. Where are you from again?
Connecticut.
Connecticut. It's like 80 degrees today, so it's not so bad around here. Usually it's been hotter than heck lately, so.
Yeah, it was 90 over here.
Ugh.
So today's call is going to be say like a 10-day turnover. Now, is that like turnkey properties, like for rentals, or they're for like fix and flips?
It would be turnkey,
Okay.
I believe. Hold on, what happened here? So you're talking about like when the tenant is moving in and then
Yeah.
moves out of them. Yeah, that's what we're gonna go over today. I was working just rehabs until recently, so I just took on the turnovers, but you know, they're just smaller scale on the turnover, obviously, so.
Now, question: what if you know, everyone on the Zoom, if no one has any rentals or anything like that, would would we be able to like suggest like another topic or something like that?
Yeah, I work more on the field op side, so I just want to make sure you're clear on that. Like, unfortunately, I don't know enough about the leasing side probably to help with that, and a ton of the accounting, but anything else, I could probably, you know, give you a little bit of information for. Since I've been here so long, I know a little bit about most of it.
Okay, that's good to know.
But it would be like mostly what I handle on my side. My day-to-day open, you know, my life here is I work rehabs, I work turnovers, I work um, appraisals. So anytime appraisals need to be done on properties, home inspections, and then open permits, city violations, those kinds of things. So when the city goes out, because they're going to inspect your property annually or 3-5 years, you know, whatever your state or city you're on, then I a lot of times handle those kinds of things too.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we can definitely do that. I don't even know if I'll need a whole hour for this, or yeah, let's just kind of find out if that's still okay.
All right.
Hi, how are you, David? Let me see. Did I unmute?
I'm good. I'm good. Just running a bit behind schedule today, but I'm here.
Okay. Well,
Heather?
yes.
Hi, Heather. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Yeah, we have perfect timing because I have about 6 turnovers coming up on the 31st here.
Okay. Well, that answers our question for a second. And then, like I said, we may not need the whole time, so we'll go over any other, you know, topics that you want to discuss then too. Okay. All right. So, wait here one more second. It looks like somebody else might be coming in, and then we'll go ahead and start.
Hey Heather, this is Victor. How you doing?
Hi, Victor. How are you?
Doing all right.
Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and start and give everybody a chance. If somebody else pops in here, we'll talk to them as we go. So I met a couple of you before. I'm Heather Diener. I work for Easy Street as a head project manager here. I've been here for a little less than 3 years, and I've worked my way up, you know, during my time here doing different jobs for Matt. So currently, like I said, I'm the head project manager. And I deal with all of the rehabs for Easy Street, and then I also deal with all of the turnovers for Easy Street. I do appraisals and home inspections and city violations also. So if you have rentals, that's definitely some of those things that you know you're going to end up dealing with. So okay, so I'm just going to go right into it, and then you guys, if you have questions, just stop me and we can talk, or at the end, however you'd like to do it. I'm going to give you an example of how I run turnovers. It's kind of like I run rehabs on a smaller scale, obviously. And so just if you have any questions, just ask. So first, what happens here at our company, how it works is I am notified that a tenant is moving out of a property. And so I will then go out to the property, and myself or one of my project managers and we'll scope it. So we're going to walk through the entire property. We have our tablets and we have the apps that we use. And those apps in Podio, we have a form that we pull up through Podio, and it has each room individually, like bedroom, kitchen, living room, exterior, and each of those categories, as our tech is walking through there, he is going room by room. And so let's say your first room that you walk into is your living room. He hits the box for needs touch-up paint or needs the entire room painted, new carpet needs to be cleaned, carpet needs to be torn out, holes in the walls. So as he's walking, that process really isn't that long because it's just touching a button. There's a section that is for smaller notes too, so miscellaneous notes. So say, I was just on a property the other day actually where a tenant put bars on the windows and had some hardware like swings or something from the ceiling. I'm not sure what it was, but they all are not something that you're going to have a button to click because that was something one off. So that's what you would put in that section, and then go to your next room. So then you're in the kitchen, you're determining if you want to paint your cabinets, if they need to be replaced, if you have any damage on your trim, your doors, countertops. A hard time I have with turnovers is the difference between what it takes for a rehab and what it takes for a turnover. Obviously, these are flips. These are where a tenant is about to move right back in. So you're not gonna, change every countertop and every door or things if there's not major damage. So as you're walking through, you're making that list of all the repairs in each room, and then you're outside, you're doing your exterior. You're going to have clear description of what you need. The best time to do this is when you're at the property, because if I come back here after I do 5 scopes, then I walk back in here and I try to remember things, I may remember 75% of it, but I may forget something. And that's one of those things that, your contractors will bring up later, or you'll have to have an amendment to their contract or something if you didn't mention it and it wasn't in there. So I'm checking that. Another thing that I'm checking when I'm there, number one thing I always check for is my mechanicals. I need to make sure that my heat's working, that my furnace filter's changed, AC's working if you're supposed to have it, your water heater's good, your plumbing, you're flushing the toilets, there's no backups, your sinks, you're using them, no issues. Electrical, you're going to check your panel. You're probably not changing a panel during a turnover, but you're definitely looking at it to make sure, first, your tenants haven't done anything to it, and second of all, it doesn't look like any repairs that may need to be done. You're making sure that your gas and your electric and your water are still all on. If you forget one of those, you may need a gas inspection if your property's been vacant for a little bit. That can take time because you're going to need a plumber and electrician to do that. So it's one of those things you want to find out right away so that you don't end up ready to be done and you don't have any gas on and you've got to wait 3 or 4 days for Mid-American to come out. So you're going to have a clear written description for your GCs. Everything's going to be written out like we've talked about in the rehabs. You want to be very clear with them on there because they're going to try to find ways or they're going to not know what you're talking about and then not do the work for you. And that's an unnecessary trip for you to be over at the property. Why I'm there the first time, I'm making notes. Some of the other things I look for besides my mechanicals, I'm looking at my pest control. Does it look like there was any pests at any time? If there is, I need to be calling pest control. Any carpet issues, if I can save the carpet, it's going to need to be cleaned. Now, some of my GCs clean carpets themselves and some do not. A lot of them actually don't. So we use a company here in the Quad Cities and I send them off the carpets as they come up and then the codes, and then they just go in and clean them. So you're going to be making your scope in there, checking your utilities, checking your mechanicals, and checking for pest and your carpet. see here. You need to take really good photos. Now for us, a lot of these properties are not owned by us. They're owned by other people. So as I'm walking through in there and I'm making my scope, that's how I'm also proving the damage, both to the tenants on why I'm not going to give them back their deposit or their whole deposit, whatever it be. And also for the owner of the property, if you're management, like we are, you want to explain to them why they're spending, $400 on a turnover. You need to have proof of all of that. So you're taking your photos in each room as you're taking your making your scope notes. And like I said, we have tablets, so my techs, they're able to do that really quickly. It's just a couple steps for them. You want to check your appliances too. We have a lot of issues with those. Make sure that your gas is still lighting on all of them. It's something that sometimes gets forgotten. So, and then you're going to leave there and start talking to your contractors. You're going to, I've got certain guys that I go to. So some minor ones, I have guys that, they're really good at just painting and cleaning and trim work and that kind of stuff, but they can't really get into the construction side. They're obviously who I'm using for my lighter rehabs, the kind of quick things with a couple hours or half an afternoon, they can have that completed. And then the larger ones where I'm either asking for approval from the owner or, that we know we have to make a lot of repairs. I'm saving my certain contractors, these bigger contractors, I'm saving them for those bigger projects. We try to keep our turnovers obviously under the deposit. So anytime that there's a ton of damage in there, we have to involve our owners, which it definitely holds the process up. And you don't want to do it if you don't have to, but okay. So I'm going to get my GCs and I'm going to start talking to them and ask them if they want to meet over there and get a bid and walk them through, get in the scope. So when I meet them over there, I'm going to have my scope with me. And then most of my contractors have been there with us for a long time, but even if they have, I still give them the exact same paper that I gave them. This is our turnover punch list, which I think we gave out last time. I'm going to pull it up here at the end. I just don't want to lose you guys right now. But it has a step-by-step checklist for everything from your entry doors, your flooring, your walls, and your ceiling. This is a very generic form. It goes through each room, but it's something that we give the contractors right when we meet them over there, because these are the things that should never be missed. Every single time, this is the exact same thing. You always have to change your locks. You always need to check and make sure that your doors or your windows open and close without a ton of effort. They stay open without force. We always want to make sure the walls are painted. It's not missing lights or fixtures. I mean, it's just basic stuff that they should know, but it's written out right there for them. So if they want to take this form and walk through the property, verify that they've done everything, that's always really good for them to use. Most of my guys don't want it because they've worked with us for a while and they know it, and they know exactly what we're looking for. But for anybody new that's starting, this is a really good form for them to know. This is just the basic. And then anything extra is going to be in your scope and in your written description that you're going to give the contractor. So when you meet them out there, you're handing them both this and your scope, and then walking through the property with them again. So you're, walking through each room, start at the bottom level of the house, and you're walking around, pointing at the things that you need repaired room by room. And then, if they have questions, that's the time for them to ask. I'm asking them if they know how to use the app, the website app that we have for our warehouse here. I'm explaining that to them, and asking for any questions, and then we're kind of hinting at prices there. When I walked through the first time and I made the scope initially, I was thinking in my head, is this $400 for him to do it? It's going to take him a couple hours. And somebody will shampoo the carpets. I think 400 is a fair price. And then when I'm walking through with him, I can kind of feel him out already. and realize like, hey, this guy's going to ask me for $3,000 to do what I think is a $400 turnover. Then we don't need to waste our time. You can kind of feel, so right then I'm saying to him already, I may kindly say to him, I usually don't spend more than $400 or $500 on these turnovers. You could have this done in 3 hours. You agree, right? And kind of encourage him. Like, I know that this is a very short, quick turnover, and I don't want you to hand me a $3,000 bid because that's unrealistic. So again, go over them with them. Any clear directions there. You should think about, like I said, the bid as you go through. While you're there, I do want to point out on the multi-units, anytime that you have a property that's got more than one unit in there, but you're only working on one at a time, that's a really, really good time to be scoping out your tenant that's still in there, kind of see how they're living and check that out. And then the other thing would be, I would be making any repairs. Currently, when I'm over at 2 of these multi-units that we have, I'm making some exterior repairs. We need a roof patch on one and then some siding patch on another. So that's a good time. You're already at the property. You have a contractor there. I would try to do, maybe if you need landscaping or trees done, I would try to do it all at once. Okay, so they're going to come back at me. We're gonna leave there, and then the contractor is gonna come back at me with a bid later. He may text it to me or call me that night. We're gonna kind of hash out our bid. I never hardly take the first bid. I always try to, get the conversation, see if I can get him any lower. A lot of guys around here, they'll throw me $1,000 bid, and then I'll say 300, and we'll agree on 4. So I don't think a lot of people know what they want to bid or what they should be bidding. They just throw a number out there. So it's amazing. Matt had me, I'm looking for a bid over in Rock Island for us right now. This is a good story for huge, it's going to have some scraping and painting on a multiplex over there. It's 2-story, 2.5 probably. And the gentleman threw me a $10,000 bid last week to bid it, or to paint the entire. And I came back at him with 4, and he laughed me away. And an hour later, we settled on $3,200 with me paying for materials. That is how it works. People do not know how to bid. They do not know what they're throwing you. They are just throwing you a number, and you can bring them down. And I do every day. I don't pay face for anything. So again, check your multi-units while you're there, and see, and then, okay, so you leave there, and then you agree on your bid. So if it's a $3,200, then you're going to make your contract. So you're going to get into whatever system you use for your contracts. Make sure that's ironclad in there. You've added your normal scope, your punch list, what he for sure has to do. And then you've got any additional notes in there, because you don't want him saying that he did not bid to tear out that deck off the back, when it's exactly what you guys talked about, because they will do that. And, a lot of these guys, you may be 50% into payments with him already. And all of a sudden he says he never talked about the bid with the deck. Okay. So that's definitely for sure something to do.
That happens to me all the time.
Yes. Yes.
All the time. Just 2 weeks ago, I'm arguing with my contractor about that.
Yeah. And the hard part for me is that I'm super busy, and I have so many projects going on that I feel like I said it. And sometimes I'm positive I said it, yeah. But maybe I didn't, but I can't be wrong the 3rd time when I've walked through there with him and he continues to do that same thing with you. I think that's what we talked about with rehabs. If it's that kind of guy that's just going to give you hassle time after time after time, cut your ties, because you spend more time babysitting that guy than anything.
You're right.
And then, that's not the only way. That kind of guy is the kind of guy that's going to keep extra materials from you, that he would have had at job sites. Milking the clock a little bit if you're paying him by hour. There's, he's going to think of other ways to mess you around if he thinks he can get away with you for that kind of stuff. So, okay. So next, so after you've bid, you've got an approved bid, and the contract signed, and you're good to go. You're going to have your contractor in there. I told you I'm the same way with rehabs, turnovers I am with rehabs. I'm going to show up there every single day. and I'm going to drive by, and sometimes I can't even stop. I caught myself doing this again today because I had a busy Monday. I like drive through alleys just so they see me and they think I'm going to get out of the car and come in and check them, or I may come back, and it just makes them work harder, and they stay at the job site because they're like, oh man, she could pull up anytime. But I'm just kind of slow rolling them. You know, I don't have time to stop, but I want them to know that I'm still out there, and, anything's possible. So that's what I did today. I didn't have time. I texted them, but I slow rolled them through some alleys. So, but if you can, and what you should do if you don't have 50 properties every day, is that you should go to that property every day. Because the only way I push my guys, my contractors, because I don't run them. I want to run them, but I don't. They're their own guy and their own company. They don't have to listen to me. So if they want to take 3 days off, they can. And I lose a lot of my power. You know, I really can't do anything. So I show up every day. When are we getting it done? Hugo, where are we going? That's where, and my guys get really frustrated sometimes, but that's what I do. I'm like, oh, we're working on doors and windows. So by the time you leave here today, and I may say it 4 times and they think I'm nagging at them, probably like their wife, but I'm like, you're going to have the doors and the windows done before we leave today, right? And then they're going to be yes. And they're going to try to shoot for that because they've made me that promise before I left the house, and they know I'm going to be back the next day. So, the other thing I use for them is that I lie about my deadlines. Okay. So if I have a scheduled appraisal for next Thursday, I'm going to tell that guy that I have the appraisal on Monday morning, because if I don't, they're going to take up until Wednesday night, and then everything may not be perfect, or even Thursday. You know, I usually take 3 days off. I shave 3 days. And that's just another one of my techniques from learning over the years, is that you get burnt too many times by waiting for that last minute. So if you have something that's important, you're trying to sell that to somebody, you're trying to have an appraisal, you're trying to get a tenant moved in there, whatever it is, tell your GC a few days before that. Like, hey, these tenants are moving in here on Tuesday morning. I have got to get in here Monday afternoon and make sure that everything looks good. So I need you to finish this on Monday morning. Okay. So again, the deadlines are huge. Just don't tell them your real deadline, or you probably will not hit it. Let's see. You're going to push them. Like I said, set that daily goal. Tell them every day, oh man, my boss is on me. I've got a tenant. They want to move in here right now. Like, they're asking to move their date up, you know. What can I do? Do you need materials? Do you need another dumpster? You know, how many guys? Do you have any, you know, can your brother come help you again? You know, anything to kind of push them, and just, you know, kind of give them that 10 minutes of attention while you're at the property. You're kind of shooting the shit with them a little bit, sorry, but then you're also like pushing them. So it's not all a negative experience with you, so they don't get too angry or fed up with you. You know, you're still their, you know, your friend, but you still have to be kind of firm on those deadlines. Okay, let's see. So after you're completed with that, the tenant, the guy tells you you're done, the GC tells you you're done. Another thing we should go over is, so we have some properties that are kind of difficult to rent right now. We have tenants that don't want to walk, like, so say we have a detached garage and there's a hill that we have to walk down on one of our properties to get into that garage. And it seems to be like a really big tenant issue. Like, and the new leasing is having a really hard time getting somebody in there because they keep complaining about that. So I want to know what all those leasing issues are, maybe for what the last tenant, you know, last time it was vacant, for me to use this time. So what the leasing department will give me some heads up, and when they tell me that a tenant moved out, they're going to tell me the stairs were an issue last time, or the tenant doesn't like that the back alley doesn't have any lighting and they're scared at night, or whatever it be. So any of that stuff, I want to try to make those repairs while they're in turnover, so that you don't have that issue again. And when leasing does get a hold of it, they can actually rent it out, you know, and you can get renters in there, which is the whole point. If you have owners while you're trying to do the turnover, obviously you want to have really good communication with them. You need to explain to them where their money is going and what these repairs are that you're making. That's where some of those photos and the documentation come in also for the owners. But also, I mean, it's a lot of trouble. If you went and spent $2,000 and an owner is like, why did I just spend that? And the deposit money also, you know, they're going to get really frustrated really fast. So you want to try to keep those costs really low. Another thing you may want to look at when you're in those rates. So say, you know, it really needs new doors or windows. And last time the tenant was there 2 years ago, you didn't do it. You had decided, you know, you were going to wait a little bit. You may look for some of those upgrades each time a tenant moves out. Maybe you make one of those repairs as you go. You know, if you're on a smaller scale, or, you know, go in there and come up with ideas, what you may need to do the next time. At least you're giving yourself some time to prepare for, you know, if you've got your tenant on a 2-year lease, what do I want to do in 2 years here? Am I continuing to keep the property? So do I want to put my investment into windows and doors and flooring? Or, you know, am I selling it for whatever your plans are with the property? So after we're done making our repairs and the general contractor is complete on our end, we have a gentleman here and he punch lists for us. So he has this list of the turnover issues, and plus he has his own, and he is making it sure that it's rent ready before a tenant moves in. So he walks the property, and again, he checks for the water, electric, gas, doorknobs, windows to be working. When we're listing a property here, we're bringing it to Section 8 standards, because we have several Section 8 tenants, and city inspections are maybe a 5, and difficulty, those Section 8s are like a 10. So we just try to get all of our houses up to that higher standard. So whether we move a Section 8 in there or not, we've passed all city violations and all Section 8s. We've met all codes across the board. So that's where we're trying to do. So I don't know if you have those I don't know what they're called in your area. But if you are going to rent to any of, you know, Section 8 or the people that, you know, help assist with the rent payments, you definitely want their list and what exactly they're going to be asking for each time they go into the property, because their rules are very strict. So Lance checks the property and verifies that it meets all the Section 8 standards and passes all of the punch list items that we had. And when he does that, he'll shoot an email back to me, and it will have other repairs that need to be made on it, or it will have that it's done. And then he hits listing, and the property goes up for listing, and then leasing side gets it, and then they work on putting a tenant in there. But we do have a second person besides myself that goes into the property and verifies that it looks good. I think all of my properties look good, so I think they should all list. But he, of course, you know, he has a list that he has to follow off of. So sometimes I get a little frustrated when, you know, we have to go back for doorknobs 3 times. So you do not want your GC to do that. And we make our GCs go back and repair that every time. So they learn really quickly that if they don't want to make 3 trips to the property in the punch list process, that they need to get every item completed on there and make sure everything's done. They do get very frustrated when they have to go back for a light bulb, but it was on the list. It was on the list and they were paid for it, and they need to go back and they need to do it. And that's definitely how Matt feels about punch lists. The contractor that was paid for it needs to go back. We have a thing around here. It's up 6 months so if any turnovers or rehabs have happened in the last 6 months and they have any issues, whether it be with the city or Section 8 or a tenant, we're responsible for sending the crew back that did it. So if the leasing side or the maintenance department here gets something that I've worked on, they send it back over to me. I can't pass it off. It's something that our crews have to go back and fix then. Again, I have guys that were paid for that, so they should go back and do it. So I don't have a ton about turnovers. They're really kind of short and sweet. There's not a lot. I know I went over it kind of fast. So is there any questions? Like, I know, especially with you, that you're trying to start the turnovers. Do you have anything, questions on any of that?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay.
Uh, What do you guys use for the locks? You said you're changing locks every time. And then what kind of time frame are you guys usually dealing with from when the tenant moves out to your rehab, a new tenant moves in?
Okay, so we're trying to do that in 10 days or less. So that's the goal. So if a tenant moves out on the 13th, I'd like to be in there by the 14th or 15th scoping that property. Because you've got to pay your tenant back, your previous tenant, their deposit back. If they get some of that back, you only have legally so many days to do that. So I need to get that scoped right away and get bids to show why the damage that they did costs what it cost and why they're not getting their full deposit back. So if they didn't clean the carpets and I have to pay $150 for the carpet cleaning, they're not getting that back out of their deposit. So yeah, so that's it.
And then when are you putting it up for lease? Are you doing it right as they're moving out or before?
No, we'll wait until, so it will not even go on our vacancy list or up on our website until after I've said it's done, but then I'm not the final say. The gentleman Lance that I was telling you about that does the punch list, he's the one that actually puts it on our website because he's the final say. He's a I don't know how you say it, set of eyes that, you know, he's only working for himself and he's just trying to do the properties the right way and make sure that it's listed. So as soon as Lance says, yes, I did everything that I was supposed to do on that list and my contractor did, then he hits it. But that is not after until all the repairs have been completed.
Okay, and what are you guys using for locks? Do you guys use coded locks or you still got keys or what?
We do have keys. We have the lockbox. I had some in here earlier. It's a black lockbox, a 4-digit code on it, a combo code. And then the keys are inside. So what will happen is when I go to scope a property, I'll take 2 to 3 locks with me, deadbolts, and a key com box. And I'll go to the property, drill the lock, put a new deadbolt on the front and on the back, you know, how many ever doors there are so that they all match. And then I'll put those keys in that lockbox and put it on the door.
Okay.
So the next guy that walks in there to start making repairs, he's already got the code on there. My GC knows what the code is because I talked to him about it when he got the approved bid. And then he has access. He's responsible for putting those keys back in the box every night though, because you have inspections and other people that are going to walk in there and you do not want to be stuck with no keys and have to drill them again. If I drill him again, I'm going to charge that GC for him if he's the one that took the key. If he's got him in his pocket and an HVAC inspector's there and I have to drill the lock, I'm going to charge him off of his, you know, off his bill for it. Do you have any other questions on that part?
That's it.
Okay.
This is Victor. Question: how many bids do you usually get?
I get, so let's say for this painting job that I have going on, the one I was telling you about earlier, I got 3 bids on that. And then I'm going to use the bid against the other, you know, so I'm going to tell him that, you know, he just gave me a $3,500 bid, you know, you can bring it down, you can start sooner, I want you to do it, you know. I would say 3 is a really good number. I don't ever go to Matt with 1 bid. The first thing he's gonna ask me is, how do I know this is the best price I'm getting? Have you tried anybody else? He likes to see a few in front of him. So I think 3 is a good number. I really do.
Okay. Right. And another thing, you mentioned 6 months. Is that a guarantee that the contractors or the GC gives you on the work that's done?
That's what we have in our contract with them. You know, GCs aren't really going to read that, to be very honest with you. They're probably not, but you're going to tell them that. That's a conversation you're going to have. I would not want to save it for when you're calling to tell them they need to come back because they're going to be like, what the heck are you talking about? So it needs to be an upfront conversation. Hey, if you're going to do this work and, you know, the tenant punches a hole in the wall, that's not your GC's fault to go back and fix. But if a door falls off the hinges 3 days after a tenant moves in, you want them to go back, you know.
Yeah, it's understood. Yeah. Okay.
Hey Heather, I believe this last Zoom meeting of June, towards the end, we were I think it was like scope of work and contractors and stuff like that. I requested like two documents. They were never added to the
Oh,
link. So I don't know if
Tyler
you
do
can
that.
email it to me or if you have Tyler.
Okay. I believe that was the scope of work, the punch list, and then that was the 7 steps, right?
Yeah, the 7 steps, the scope of work, the scope of work, and then the punch list. That's two different
Yes,
documents.
I'm sorry, I meant punch list. So the punch list and the 7 steps. That's what Tyler told you he was going to send you last time. Okay, because
Yeah,
you're
I
making your own
would
scope.
like the scope of work too.
Well, I mean, I can give you one. Is there something we talked about there? Because you're going to kind of make that yourself. What we use in our program, though, that we should bring up when Tyler's with us the next time is the Podio and the form that they use. I don't have a copy of that because it's actually in Podio, but Tyler can pull one. And that would be really good for you. It was kind of neat to see it. I had never seen it before I got into turnovers because, of course, we don't do it with rehabs. But you can't mess it up. It's like paint the whole room, paint patches,
Yeah.
door, trim, smells. I mean, just anything's on there. So it really is really good. And I love the fact that my guy can just stand there with a tablet and go ding, 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 ding. And as he's doing that, he's taking a photo of that room too. And he's wrapping up everything right there. And it's all in Podio. So when I go, I can just see it. I hit the link, his pictures pull up. I see all of his notes about what needs to happen. This is typical. Heather, there's fleas at this property and the carpet needs cleaned and there's no power on. So then I read those notes and then I start ticking. So then I go to Mid-American. Why do I have no power? Talk to them about that. Then I email pest control and I email my carpet cleaner. My carpet cleaners, my pest control, and my smaller things like that, I'm doing via email because if you
Breaking up.
Yeah. Hello?
So yeah, you're not going to want to make all those. So I just send them off and then I just make myself a note right back in that Podio, just telling myself, and I'm not tagging anybody. I'm not saying, I'm just saying it for myself. And it's saying sent to pest control, carpets being cleaned on this day. I mean, I have like 50 turnover, let's say 35 turnovers right now. To do that, it's really hard to keep up. So you just want really good notes. And kind of how many, David, how many rentals do you have?
Around a dozen.
Okay. So do you run them all yourself?
I have kind of a property manager basically, and he's a handyman too. We're part owners in 4 units, and then he runs the maintenance side of things, and then I kind of help with turnovers. I try to push everything to like one day. We try to eliminate vacancy because I rent to mainly college students, and so they're always moving in and out at the same time. So we try to get things done to where we only have a few days of vacancy. It's real tight.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have college kids? Do they tear it up pretty good when they're in there, or do most of them try to get their deposit back?
Most of the time I give the deposit back.
That's
At
good.
least part.
It's really nice.
I mean, it just depends. I had one bad group in out of probably the last 25.
That's not bad at all. I just did.
And they pay more.
Yeah, I just did about 20 move outs in the last 2 weeks, and I only had 2 that were needing to go to the owner and say, hey, we've got a problem. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. That's great.
Most of them I try to use. Now Tyler said a lot of you guys don't have an in-house, but that's the other thing that I talked about a lot last time is that I love my in-house guys. So I have like a group of GCs that work really hard for me. And over the couple years I've been here, I've kind of built relationships with. So I've tried to bring them in, and some of them work for me hourly now. And that works out really well. I like that. And so I have them. If you were working with an in-house crew, I'll give you a really quick rundown of how I started doing it. So I took all of these properties. So we had 40 turnovers, say, and I sent my guys out there and they scoped every one of them for a few days, for like a week. We spent out just scoping every property. And then in the notes, we were putting carpet, pest, anything crazy in there. And then we're also putting three hours for in-house to do. So that contractor or my project manager would tell me he needed 3 hours to do that. So then I took all of those properties at the end once they were all filled and I had all the information, and then I broke them all down by city. And then I took how much time my contractor told me he was going to take at each of those properties. So if it was 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, right now we're currently working on no overtime at my company. So I am using all of my GCs for the first time on 8 hours, which is kind of hard. But I broke those all into cities, and then I'm trying to do the most that I can do with my 40 hours a week. So I took that guy and I have, let's say I had six turnovers in Davenport. I took 3 hours and 2 hours and 3 hours, and I made, what am I at? Am I at 8 hours? I hope 8 hours. And I said, okay. And then I made him a Google Calendar, and I put it on his Google Calendar. On Tuesday, he's going to go to those houses, and that's his 8 hour day. And I also worked with Matt and recently, and I don't have him come back here. He's not at my warehouse filling up on materials every day. I made him a big giant list, and he has a rolling inventory, and he spends his time in the field on the job site, not at Menards, not in my warehouse, at the job site. That's how you get your full 8 hours a day. So I have a girl that is here for college for the summer. I'm paying her $12 an hour. She's at the warehouse, then she drives to Menards, picks up what she needs, this or that, and then she runs them to the job sites. Because if your guy is in Menards, he's catching up with his friend, his other contractor friend, and they're drinking coffee and they're shooting the shit in the parking lot. And that's the time you're paying for, or that's time that you're trying to get your vacancy filled again. You can't, because the guy's, he's on his own time.
And it kills them too.
Keep them out of there. Keep them on the job sites. My number one advice from what I do. The only way you're going to be successful and get the most things done in rehabs or turnovers or maintenance or wherever the heck you are, keep your guys out of the stores and keep them on the job site.
For sure.
So, do we have any more on that? You good there?
Yeah, no, we're good with that one.
Okay. All right. So I think what I'm going to do, because I didn't have a ton on turnovers, is we have some time left. If we want to ask anything, I do turnovers and rehabs, appraisals, punch lists, city violations. So I'm more of the field op side, but if you have any questions, I can, or another topic that you wanted to just, that I'm helpful with.
Be good.
Ray, do you have anything?
I'm trying to think of something now. Trying to come up with some
Let me
questions.
think. So do you guys deal with city inspections very much around your area?
They're trying to push them through. They push them through in Omaha. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, so I'm not that far from you.
Mm-hmm.
But they're pushing a new inspection through all rentals in Omaha, but I don't think we're going to get it here. They'll be going through it's basically like a Section 8 inspector every year on every single unit.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with it.
Ours come out like once every 3 or 5 years, and they'll give you a certificate for that amount of time. But if they don't really, it's kind of all up to them on how they want to pass that out. And you don't really get to say too much. But you definitely don't want them if you don't have to deal with them, because it's nice. They'll get you, and then they'll make you call in, licensed mechanical guys, which always is a little more frustrating and costs a lot more money. I just got one today for a structural evaluation, which is super infuriating because a plumber cut a floor joist and we could have repaired it. He ran plumbing through it and cut the floor joist, which I have no idea why he did that. But the inspector is not having it. So those are some of the fun things that you get to deal with on that end. But you'll have to.
What do you have good experience with the Section 8 people, or where do you rate them as far as like a tenant category?
I I rate them as difficult. I'm going to say that the Section 8 workers are all 100% for the tenant. They're 100%. So a tenant is going to call them and tell them that this is for sure. Tenant calls them and tells them that their toilet's plugged on a Monday morning. That is Section 8 workers going to call you and say the tenant has no running water and no working toilet and hasn't ran all night long on Sunday night. And now you have 12 hours to get out there and fix it. And we want it done by a licensed plumber. And so you lose all your power right away, because now they've told you that you have to bring a big guy in to pay, $120 for the visit to come out there and unclog a toilet. And you have to do it on their time frame. It's like instantly, there's no, I'll give you 30 days to fix it. It's like, they want all the repairs done. And then whether the tenant is correct or the tenant is lying about the times that they've tried to call you or what they've requested or what they've said in previous messages, the Section 8 does not care. They are going just to follow through with what the tenant says. They don't want to hear the inner whatever, and they're just like, make the repairs. So the Section 8, what I've found is that our tenants won't even come to us most times now. They go straight to their Section 8 worker because they know they're going to get pushed right to the front of the line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that I wish we didn't have as many Section 8s as we do. But they're guaranteed rent. You're going to get paid. And so, but they're harder on your units. They seem to care a lot less about how they live or how they treat your stuff. Because they may be paying $17 a month to live there and the state is paying the rest of it. They just have no care about whether, there's holes or things, and then they, may not even have the deposit. So they're not even trying to get that back in the end. There's no reward for them treating your place nicely. You can report them to Section 8 though. That's one thing that we've done a few times is you can say, hey, this tenant did this so bad, and you send photos and pictures and show what they did there. That Section 8 they have in the past a few times, stop working with that client completely.
Yeah, they'll get them kicked off.
Yeah. So, you do have a little bit of leeway when it comes to that, but definitely if you move one in and something like that happens, contact their worker. They call on you. You should do the same to them.
That's a good idea.
And then, let's see. Yeah, the 6 month guarantee. The reason that's, you just got to be really, really careful with that. A tenant's going to move in there. They're going to cause damage to your property. So a famous thing they always do is take down, I'm sure you probably have this, their smoke detectors and their carbon sides. They want to take them down because they'll cook and they'll burn, and then they don't want to hear them beeping all the time. So they'll take those down, or they'll do something with a window and they, maybe crack or break a window. And then you go in for a Section 8 inspection or a city violation inspection, or you're just in your property to check it out and you find these things. You're going to try to call your contractor back and say, hey, this door was broken. And he's going to say, what are you talking about? That you got to know what your tenant did and what your contractor has to go back and fix. That's an argument I have. They're going to say, especially if a tenant lives there and it's turnover, they're going to say that tenant did that and it looked fine when I left. So again, good documentation on that side when you leave, when that GC is done at that property. But we kind of take photos the entire way through our process. So that usually covers us in most things. Let me see what else. So probably don't deal with appraisals ton. Not really sure what else. Let's go over punch list again. The punch list you're understanding is basically the very typical stuff, right? You're filling your holes in your walls, you're making sure the trim is good, the doors open and close, the windows. That's the same punch list that you're going to use on any rehab or turnover that you're doing. My techs, a lot of my GCs right now, like I said, I don't even have to go to the property and walk them through anymore. They know exactly what I'm looking for. It's the same guys that I'm going to use, you know. So a year ago, I can move him from a rehab to a turnover, and I don't have to walk him through it. I don't have to give him the sheet. He knows what's expected of him, you know. So I may shoot him over the scope of work through an email or a text message, but I don't have to go to that property with him. If I could, if you can get good enough to do that, and if you can keep those same guys coming back time after time, it's beneficial to everybody. It's good for them and it's good for you because it's less work you have to do in the end by meeting people out there and walking through, explaining how the process works for ordering and, you know, all the little glitches that all of these new contractors. I have 2 new turnover contractors that I've started working last week. And I just am about to pull my hair out today already. They just have so many questions and they just need a lot of help. You know, it's a lot of work to bring somebody new onto the process. So if you've got somebody good, hold on to them.
How many GCs are you like managing at once constantly?
A lot. I mean, between the two, between rehabs and turnovers, I probably have, I don't know, 20 different groups of guys that I'm working with right now. And then I still have my in-house guys, you know, so it's a lot. I'm working 22 rehabs currently. So each day, whether I have a crew in there or not, I'm trying to get cover. I'm working on mechanicals. I need exterior bids, you know, touching those each day. And then with the turnovers, there's our 2 in-house guys that are running them. And then there are 5 GCs, 5 separate groups of GCs kind of hitting them. Now I have one guy, David, that guy can seem to get through 3 or 4 turnovers a week. And I'm giving him the larger ones because again, I'm keeping those little quick hitters. I don't want to bid those out. First, I don't want to walk a guy through it for a 3-hour job.
Yeah.
And second, he's not going to make enough money in there for that, you know. So that's where I'm using Steve and I'm breaking his hours down into that 3 and 2 of that's an 8-hour day.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but the bigger jobs, like I'm saving those GCs. Yeah, there's probably 20 of those different groups around there. And it's a lot of juggling. You got to remember, everybody's got different personalities. Everybody, some guys can be pushed and faked out on the final date. And some guys, they're just decent guys and they've worked with you long enough that you can say, hey, this is really important to me. I need this done on Thursday, and they're going to get it done. You never know, you know, if a guy's going to be difficult or not. My suggestion is if it's the second rehab or the second turnover and the guy just seems to have like his mom died every day or his car wouldn't start and his, you know, like he can't work your site to get materials. I mean, you've just how much effort you continue to put into somebody like that. You know, if you have time to pick up the phone 14 times a day and respond to what a floor joist is, you can do that, you know, or you can run over there and you can explain that. I want to surround myself with guys that don't need me to do that because you're busy, you know, but a lot of these guys, they don't just come to you like that. You've got to train them, you know, you've got to show them what you expect from the very first time that you meet and what you're looking for your turnovers and rehabs. And, you know, kind of show them like, hey, like I said with rehabs, the 3rd time they have to go back to finish the silliest, dumbest thing on a punch list, they're going to be like, I'm never doing that again. Where's the list? Pictures and notes right there. I want everything so I can be cleared up and this can be over with and I can be paid. Because again, I'm not going to pay him his final payment until I verified that all the work is done there. I know we talked about the payment for rehabs. They were 25, 50, 75, and 100%. On these turnovers, they're so little, you know, unless you've got, you shouldn't have a $3,000 turnover, but unless you've got a full, you know, really expensive turnover and if it's $400, $500, $600, you're just paying him once and at the very end, because I provide all the materials here for my crews. So I don't need you to pay for anything up front. It's just labor and getting to the job site every day, which he should be able to do in any job. You know, he would have to do that. They don't prepay him to go out, you know, for any other job sites. So
Makes sense. Now, all the 20 GCs you're working with, are they all picking up the material from Matt's warehouse, or you have someone separate delivering material to them on site?
So we do have a girl that delivers those, but a lot of the GCs, I try to save that girl and our in-house deliveries for a lot of our in-house crews, because remember, I'm trying to keep them on the job site and I don't want them leaving. I don't want my GCs that I'm bid work either, but it's a lot less harmful for me because I'm not keeping them on an eight-hour schedule.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I'm always having constant like back and forth with my contractors, like, oh, we're not supposed to go get materials, or another one to say like, hey, I'm wasting too much time picking materials. I'm not getting paid for that.
They're gonna do that. The other thing I have is my contractors don't like to use there's no power here, there's no water here. I'm like, I have heard Matt Larson say this 100 times. Go grab some buckets of water or grab some jugs of water, because like a cleaner will go to clean the property and we'll be ready to list, but the water hasn't been turned on yet. And this would be an excuse, and these guys would sit here for 3 days and not list a property over cleaning it. And Matt would say, go grab 2-gallon jugs of water and go start cleaning with the jugs of water. If you don't have power, I got a GC that did not want to do drywall today because he didn't have power at a property. And I'm like, well, don't you have a generator? Well, I don't want to pay for gas. Okay, well, I mean, and include it in your bid. I'm like, not all properties, and that was on a rehab, but not all properties have power when you walk into them. And all he wants is to power his battery operated power tools. He has to charge them during the day. So I said, fine, I'll bring $5 worth of gas over there. We'll power up your generator, and I will do you save that for only powering up your tools, and that's it. And that's what I'm going to give him. Honestly, I'm going to give him $5 worth of gas in his generator, and I'm going to call it good. And he'll get power when he gets it, but they're just going to whine. They're going to find any reason to not be there and any reason why they're delayed. And you just got to kind of like fight through the BS that they're serving you and be like, man, I could do that. Like I always, with guys, I'm like, I'm a girl and I could do that. Like, come on. They laugh at me. I'll be in a dress and I'll drill locks. Like, I'm serious. And then my guys start at 6 a.m. because it's hot and we're on 8 hours, and we took overtime away for a minute. So I've let them start coming in earlier, and then they get off earlier. But I am at the job site every morning at 6 o'clock, and people will say, why are you here at 6? Because these guys do not respect me. If I am not at the job site when they're there, they just think I'm a joke. So I just show them I'm not, and I'm there, and I'm, pointing out what we need to do and setting goals and starting their morning off. So.
And I like that.
Yeah, so be there and just, kind of demand it. So, all right. Well, is there anything else anybody had before we hang up? I'm sorry again for the delay for the thing today. So.
No problem.
Oh, thanks, Heather. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys have a great afternoon.
All right.
Thanks, Heather. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.